Back, you're watching today, and Canada has announced a new critical skills list for information technology and healthcare workers. As it stands, hundreds of South Africans in these sectors have already entered Canada's express entry pool for permanent residency. That's in response to the Canadian government's new category-based selection criteria that will be administered through its flagship economic immigration program, Express Entry. To tell us more about this, we're joined by Canadian immigration consultant Nicholas Avramis. Thank you very much for joining us in studio. Quite ironic that you would be here in South Africa and you're sending people all the way to Canada. But thank you for joining us in studio, and tell us about the opportunities that are presenting themselves in the IT space and the healthcare space, and how easy it is for people to then be able to get into the country should they wish to do so with these skills.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. Before, it used to be for these very specialized healthcare jobs across the board, one would really have to get a job offer first and then go the work permit route. But because Canada has identified healthcare and critical skills as an essential service of the Canadian economy, they have come out with a critical skills list, something we've been waiting for for 2 years now. So before, it would be you'd put an application to the pool and there'd be a point selection system. Now your job has to be on that critical skill list to be selected out of the pool.
So when we're talking about then following through with the application process and getting into the country, what is someone who is looking to move over to Canada looking at when it comes to that process? Because traditionally, as you said, if you didn't have a job offer, the process could be a little bit laborious.
Right, and this is applications for immediate permanent residency. Yes. So in terms of the way the Canadian immigration system works, they have the flagship visa program called the Federal Skilled Workers Program. And essentially, it's a point-based system. They look at your age, the younger you are, the better. They look at your education credentials, and most importantly, they look at your English language proficiency, which is so critical. And South Africans traditionally have a competitive advantage over other applicants. But the key thing to remember that not too many people know, especially in the healthcare field, is when you go as a doctor or a healthcare professional, when you go into a new country, you have to get recertified. But one advantage South Africans have is that the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, they recognize South African education in the medical field. They're only one of 9 countries. Not too many people know that.
And what does it take to settle in Canada? One would think about the cost of living, getting children into schools, accommodation. As a consultant in this space, is this something that you are intricately involved in, or is this left to the person that's looking to move?
That's an interesting question. We definitely have our hands full dealing with the paperwork and all the rules and regulations. And we primarily deal in the South African market, but South Africans, they're innovative, they're smart, they're clever, they'll find a way. And compared to other countries, South Africans tend to assimilate to Canada very quickly. And part of the reason is Canada's a young country. It's still trying to find its national identity. So South Africans, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, they can go there and be who they want to be. And that's consistent because there's over 200 different nationalities living in Canada right now.
And what would you say some of the immediate challenges one would face when it comes to integrating into the society? I know the permanent residency is a great thing, the being able to integrate into a young society like Canada, but I'm sure that there are some challenges. And what kind of advice do you then give when it comes to approaching those?
Well, when we do send our South African clients to Canada, we always tell them to dress a little bit warm. The weather is a big adjustment, but not insurmountable, especially for the kids. They love it, going in there, having a white Christmas, that sort of thing. But things, Canada's at a faster rate, so things are a little bit faster there, we find from clients. But the biggest advantage, and one thing we do hear about our South African clients who are there, things are more open, things are more free, they're more liberal, if that makes sense to you.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the appetite that you're seeing in South Africans wanting to move over there. Is that a big thing where South Africans more and more are looking at that as an opportunity? Have you been kept busy, basically?
It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So since January 1st, my office has had 17,000 contacts out of this country.
Yeah.
A big part of the apprehension now is coming out from the healthcare professionals. I think you're going to see a shift in South African medicine, especially here in the Gauteng region. Medical professionals, doctors, there's a lot of anxiety, mistrust, and anger, especially for not being paid after the COVID period. And now all the changes with the new proposed NHI, it's caused a lot of uncertainty. Doctors, who are the tip of the spear in medicine, and nurses, who are the backbone, these are professionals, and they work hard, and they want to get paid and be compensated. And in this global market, with capitalism and competition, if there's the ability for them to migrate to go to a higher paying market, they will do that.
Yeah. So as a final thought from you, if you will, Nicholas, what is the point of call for someone watching now and they're thinking, I'm interested? And apart from IT and healthcare skill set, what are some of the other ones that are being looked at as potential skills that Canada could be looking out for?
Right. Well, healthcare and IT are the big two flagships, but they're also looking for trade occupations. Plumbers, carpenters, mechanical engineers. And another big problem that we have in Canada is transportation and logistical supply issues. So pilots are right at the top of the list, air traffic controllers, truck drivers, long-haul truck drivers, people in the shipping, logistics and freight. That's become a huge issue in terms of Canada's supply chain management.
And the first point of call, so like I say, if someone's watching and thinking, well, I'm going to go and try this out, where is it, what website is it that they would have to visit?
Well, your first port of call should be Beaver Immigration.
Yeah.
That's our company. But also the Government of Canada has their list of critical skills, what we call category-based selection. So that should really be your first port of call. And if you're under 35, are on that list, have very confident in your English language proficiencies, and have South African education, you stand a good chance of being selected as a permanent resident. No job offer required.
Yeah. Very disappointed you didn't say journalism.
Oh, sorry. Maybe next year they'll add you guys to the list. I'm hopeful.
Thank you very much for joining us. That is Nicholas Avramis joining us.